attack, courage 7, 3 wounds, 3 might, 6 will, 3 fate. He has a staff of power, which gives him a recurring will. He has Glambering and Narya. Let's see. Glambering pretty much gives Gandalf +1 to his strength.
Are you saying Glambering?
Glandering.
Okay. I must be hearing stuff.
Gandalf and then his ring gives Gandalf the ability to re-roll failed fate rolls. So
it doesn't say fate rolls; it just says fate, and that's something I just realized. You could technically re-roll.
Oh, you could re-roll fate.
Yeah.
Pass.
Yeah, if you really wanted him to die and he's taking wounds, you could. I mean, you don't always have to spend fate either, but
yeah, that's true.
That's interesting.
That's true. I didn't notice either. So looking at
it, the wording of things, you know.
Yeah, and that's interesting. Gandalf knows heroic resolve, heroic channeling, and heroic strike. Gandalf can take a horse. This version of Gandalf can take a horse. He can't take Shadowfax.
Yeah, because this is Gandalf the Grey.
Yep. His magical powers are Blinding Light, Terrifying Aura, Immobilize, Command, Protection of the Valar, which is a new one. It's a pretty good ability. Strength and Will, Collapse Rocks, which is another new one, and Sorcerer's Blast.
So has anybody ever seen Collapse Rocks actually used?
I haven't.
Or been in a situation to use it potentially?
No, I mean, here's the thing with the Collapse Rocks, because when I read about it, I was like, it's actually a pretty solid rule.
Yeah.
But there's so many more magical powers you can cast that would benefit you even more. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's one of the few magical powers that actually completely relies on the terrain around you. So that's another reason why I've seen it. I feel like it's a cool idea because it's more thematic. They introduced that with this book. It wasn't in Taba or anything like that. But I just feel like it's so rarely used. And if you're going to be throwing, trying to get a 5 up, you're usually going to be throwing for his other spell, which is Sorcerer's Blast.
Yeah. Yep. So let's just go through real quick. Both of Gandalf's war gear options are really good. I guess all three, because his Staff of Powers is war gear. That gives him some long
standard stuff.
Yes, it's standard stuff. You see these on Gandalf. His heroic actions are resolve, which can help. Channeling is pretty standard for casters, and strike, which is good. So you have quite a few strikers if you take Bard and Bilbo.
Yeah, Gandalf.
Yeah, the horse upgrade is good. I almost always take.
Gives you some kiting ability with spells.
Yeah, I almost always take Gandalf on a horse if I can.
I think you kind of have to, just because. I mean, he's only got one attack. That is the downside to Gandalf the Grey over Gandalf the White. Is he's one attack. So if there is a situation where you have to get him into combat, you need that horse in order to get that extra attack. And I mean, otherwise, if he is in combat, strike's not a bad thing for him to have because he can strike up and lend that higher fight value. Now, of course, that's only if you're in a position where if you've got Bard going up against an enemy hero and for some reason Gandalf ends up getting charged, that's where strike can be useful. So.
So the blinding light ability is good, especially if your opponent's taking a ballista or a catapult or a trebuchet. It helps. Yeah, it helps you be able to, and yes, another heavy shooting army. It helps you kind of mitigate any damage your army will take, which is good. The terrifying aura is good. I don't really I've seen a lot of people I've versed a lot of people who cast it like the first turn. Unless you have Circle of the Kings, I normally don't cast it. I normally try to go for like. Maybe I'm just too aggressive with the Gandalf because I normally go for like.
You blast a lot with them.
A blast, yeah. That's normally what I try to do. Disrupt.
I think I would, depending on the situation. If it's a scenario where we're starting, relatively far apart. say like to the death, you're starting at least 24 inches apart, if not more, because of the 12-inch deployment ranges. And my opponent has a shooting heavy army like Joe did in our latest bat rep. That's where you're probably just throwing one dice a turn at blinding light, getting the freebie. Now, if you're starting closer together and your opponent doesn't have a lot of shooting, maybe you don't waste it on blinding light. Maybe you just throw it turn one, your freebie, into getting terrifying horror.
Yeah. Good point.
So that would be a good one too, because Gandalf, he's going to charge most anything with courage since he's courage 7, but it might help against a lower courage army. Think like Arnor, for example, which has pretty low courage. Then you wouldn't have to worry so much about getting charged.
Yeah.
Then you wouldn't have to be spending the points of might for strikes or to make his one dice roll from a 3 to a 6. So he doesn't get ganked in turn one.
Actually, that's probably something I should have done when I versed John Stokes, because Gandalf kind of got wrecked by the Keeper of the Dungeons.
Really?
Yeah, that was an interesting game. But Gandalf's warband went up against the Keeper of the Dungeons warband and a couple of the wraiths, and that Gandalf held him off for a long time, but he ultimately fell. It was kind of thematic, I guess.
Yeah, because Keeper of the Dungeons wanted his hand.
Yeah. Gandalf knows Immobilize. Which is good. I mean, Immobilize, even though it was nerfed, it's still good because it mitigates the person who you target and mitigates them attacking back.
Yeah. Well, I mean, think about some of the medium tier heroes out there that only have 1 point of will. I mean, I always bring him up, but I'm most familiar with him, and that's Forlong. If you can keep Forlong from you strength 5 with a War Spear, you can keep someone like that from going in against your troops. I mean, I'm wounding you on 3s for your defense 5 troops, your defense 5 militia. So if you can one dice it and cause him to burn his 1 point of will, because Immobilize is pretty low spell. You got 66% chance of it going off. Maybe you 2 dice it if you're someone like me who doesn't know how to really roll higher than 4. But you Immobilize the medium tier hero, or Huron, for example. That's another one with only 1 point of will. And keeping someone like them from being able to strike can save you some models, especially if you're in a position where you're low on will because you've done the blast, like Dan was talking about. So you look for some of the cheaper spells you can use to still influence the battlefield, but not have to be really relying on a high number to get it.
Exactly. Command is also good. Commanding it gives you the immobilize rules, and you also can move your opponent's model half its movement.
And you can make them charge.
Yeah. It's really good for objective games.
Mm-hmm. Get them off an objective like capture and control or something.
Yeah. Or just misplace them all so you can charge them in heroic combat off of it,
Yeah, great way to pull a guy out and get Bard in there.
Yep. Or somebody's protecting, let's say you're versing the girls. You command one of them out into the open. So here's a good run that's new, the Protection of the Valar. I haven't read up on this run in a long time, but I believe that it protects you from magic and special rules, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, your model's immune to magic and special rules for a turn.
Yep.
So that means that you cannot be Sorcerer's Blasted, you cannot be immobilized.
No black darts.
No black darts. I guess that would mean that if Azog charged in, he wouldn't be able to wound me on 3-ups? Question mark?
Because that's a special rule.
Yeah, so
you don't have to worry about like Ancient Evil or anything like that.
Yeah, no Blades of the Dead or Killing Blow.
I wouldn't. That would.
Or I guess that'd be War Gear. Blades of the Dead would be War Gear, I guess.
Yeah, I think it's also a special rule. I don't know.
But I've kept this spell in mind, especially with Bard. You throw Bard in when you have priority, and somebody has a caster or something secret up their sleeve. Always keep Protection of the Valor in mind, because it really can benefit you. It can benefit Bard. And if it benefits Bard, then it benefits you. pretty much as a player.
I mean,
Nice.
Bard pretty much is the night and day of this army. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
It's a good rule to have. It's a good spell to have for a big centerpiece hero like Bard.
Yeah, definitely. I guess, does Gandalf the White have? I guess Gandalf the White has protection of the Valor as well.
No,
He
no, he
He
doesn't.
doesn't. Really? That's interesting.
Really?
He has Fortify Spirit though.
Okay, that's true. But
Oh, okay.
still. Yeah, so protection of Valor is good. Keep that in mind, guys. It's a good rule, a good spell to keep your eye on. All right, so here's the little trick I was talking about earlier with Alfred. And I've done this a couple times. So if Alfred ends up eating up my might for Bard, then what I like to do is subsequently I like to make Gandalf's first priority of giving strength and will to Alfred, and then trying over again, pretty much. And that's worked out. It does. So if you do the channel version for strength and will is D3 will, which is kind of risky because you still can roll a 1, so it's only 1 will. I don't think it's D3 plus 1. I think it's just D3. So it's kind of a risk.
Yeah.
But it is a way to get Bard some might back, especially if you used all three of, especially if you roll 3 1s and got all of Bard's might. It's a good way to try over and give Bard some might.
It's also a good way to get those passive ones I was talking about earlier. Like you're in combat now, so you really don't want to maybe throw too many dice at trying to blast stuff because you're down to like maybe 1 in your store and you're reoccurring. So throwing a strength and will on Alfred, if he's still alive, can, give him the chance to give you another point of might. So that can kind of keep you going, keep your army full of might. Now, I don't feel like this army is going to be lacking for might just due to the fact that you've got 3 with Bilbo, 3, potentially 6 with Bard,
Yeah.
3 with Gandalf. So you're looking at 12 points of might. But for some reason, maybe you're just having a bad game. You're burning them all for movements and just crappy dice rolls with Bard, who's got to get those kills in order to really keep the army moving. Maybe you start throwing strength and will so you can get a few points of might. Now, obviously, it's a 2-turn strategy, so it is going to take you some time. So you have to be watching the clock and making sure that is a good play. I mean, if you've got 10 minutes left into your last turn, you're not going to be throwing a strength and will on Alfred. You're going to go ahead and spend what points of will you have left to probably try and get one last cheeky Sorcerer's Blasted.
Yeah.
But you got 45 minutes left in a game. You've got at least 2 more turns. You could go ahead and, all right, let's strengthen will on him and see if you can't get, an extra point or 2 in might to help you out throughout the game. Because, like I said, you can go above your starting points of might.
Yep. And, and like Jason said, sometimes you have a tough game, and you don't have to necessarily give the might to Bard.
That's true.
You can
So
give it to
Gandalf.
You can give it back to Gandalf. You can give it to Bilbo. Really, to give it to whoever needs it in the battlefield.
Gandalf actually can't get the.
Oh, you're right, because he's
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
'Cause he's not a Lake Town hero.
yeah. So that
I mean, you could give it to like
Percy.
give it to the girls or something.
Yeah, you give it to the girls, I guess.
What about Bilbo?
Yeah, Bilbo.
Does he count?
I think Bilbo does. Actually, let me go back and look. Let me go back and look here. I was looking at Gandalf's
He doesn't.
profile.
No,
He
Lake
does
Town
not.
hero. He doesn't have Lake Town key.
No.
Word.
Keyword. He doesn't. He only has Hobbit infantry hero, so you couldn't give it to him. But I mean, you could give it to Bard. You could give it to Hilda. You could give it to Percy.
Yep.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, it keeps you replenished on might. So, getting might's no small thing. I mean,
No, not at all.
it's a
Now you're
pretty,
throwing a pretty point of will,
Yeah.
near an end of a game or whatever.
especially late game when people start running out of might. Having the ability to get might back is awesome.
So I think it's time we talk about Bard.
Yeah, we can do that. Just real quick, last 2 spells that Gandalf knows is Collapse Rocks and Sorcerer's Blast. So, Let me go back to my Lake Town section.
I know Blast is his big offensive spell.
Yeah.
Whenever I've used Gandalf, that's normally the spell I'm trying to cast on a trooper, a hero.
All right. So Bard, the Bowman. He is movement 6, fight 5, courage 3, strength 4, defense 4.
Courage 6. He's a he's shoot value 3.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, shoot value 3. Strength 4, defense 4, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 6, 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate. His heroic actions are heroic resolve, heroic accuracy, heroic strike, and heroic strength. War gear is the sword and the great bow. His war gear options are a wind lance, a horse, and armor. So let's just talk real quick before we go into special rules. Just talk about those things real quick. So I always take Bard with armor and a horse. Always.
You kind of have to.
Yeah, you kind of have to. I mean, he's your leader. You need to have him as hardy as he can be.
Yeah, being a defense 4 guy is already hard enough. You're looking at a lot of bows out there that can really hurt you.
Yep.
Yeah, he's got 3 points of fate, but being the leader at only defense 5. I mean, there's other armies that are that way too. I think Corsair, Dalamir is only defense 5, so or actually I think he's defense 4. So it's obviously possible to keep him alive, but like Corsairs, for example, as I use him, Dalamir's not really a frontline fighter. He's more of a support because of his special rules, where Bard is really the guy that's got to be up there. So being that defense 5 is kind of rough. So, I mean, I don't see a situation where you would ever not take him with armor.
Yeah. And his great bow is awesome. Great bow is a strength 4 bow. And,
Yes.
it also just gives him the capability to sit back and shoot with the rest of your army, if that's what you decide to do.
Yep.
And he also could have 6 might to work with. So if you getting some in the way checks passed, and you can do a wound enemy general early game, or to at least take him off his horse. You have 6 might to work with a strength 4 bow. It's nothing to laugh at.
Yeah. And that strength 4 bow can get up to 3 shots with his rapid fire special rule.
Yeah. If Bard the Bowman hits a target with his great bow, he may take another shot at a target within 3 inches of it. If that shot is also a hit, he may shoot again, to a maximum of 3 shots in total. So, Bard is kind of interesting because he's kind of a hybrid. He's a fairly reliable close combat hero with the girls, and with the 6 might. He's really reliable in close combat, but he also can sit back and shoot, and actually could be in the running for one of the better archer heroes in the game.
If he still had the black arrow rule where he could shoot the black arrow out of his bow, like in the Desolation of Smaug, I'd say he'd be the best archer hero.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, there were times when I used Bard back then where
I'd put him second. I'd put him second to Legolas.
He's like Legolas when it comes to shooting. I feel like his archery is actually better than Legolas's.
Yeah, strength 4 bow.
Exactly.
And he could have 6 might.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's more expensive than Legolas. So where he's better, he's a better shooter. I feel like he's a better shooter and a better combat guy. Well, he definitely is a better combat guy because he's got 3 attacks, whereas Legolas only has 2.
Yeah,
I would say Legolas is instant shot, on a 2-up.
Yeah, that's why I'd put Legolas above Bard, because he has that insta shot.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I could go back and forth on it, to be honest with you, because the strength 3 shot is good. Don't get me wrong. But you still have to hit, and you could miss and end up spending a point of might. You roll a 1, and you have to spend a point of might, and now you're down to 2. And if you're shooting something big where you're trying to sneak in and kill something, like what is Dane's Pig's defense 6, isn't it?
yeah.
So if you're shooting at it with Legolas's bow, okay, now you rolled a 1.
to hit. So you gotta spend a point of might. Well, you don't have to, but I'm using this for this situation. You spend a point of might. You're down to 2. Now you got to get a 6 to wound it. So you really need, if you're trying to get that kill to take Dane off, say the pig's already lost the wound for some whatever reason, you're looking at a 4 up. Well, 4 because you'd be willing to spend those last 2 points on might. So yes, the shot's good, but where I could have Bard who can shoot you on a 3 with a strength 4, and then shoot you again, and then shoot you again. I don't know. I feel like it goes back and forth. Sometimes I could. It's really situational. I could see Legos being the better one in some situations, but Bard the other. And I feel like probably 6 out of 10 times I'd probably want Bard over Legolas, even with the insta shot. Just because that strength 4. I mean, you're shooting a crossbow with an elven shoot value. That's great.
Yeah. No, I mean that's the thing, guys. Is
And he can move and shoot on like a crossbow too, which is nice.
Exactly.
Yeah, and since he's mounted, he can move generally 5 inches and still shoot a 4-up shot, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And
I mean, you've used it pretty devastatingly against me, Dan.
So yeah, if I use, like, for an example, guys, I was talking about taking all these militia guys with bows. Well, I also take Bar with a bow because he comes with one, and that just adds 3 more shots to your pretty. I mean, give or take 3 more shots a turn for your army. So
I mean, in a two turn shooting, you're averaging at least 4 more shots.
Yeah.
In 2 turns, so about 2 extra a turn.
And so, I mean, at strength 4, that can start taking out. I mean, I've killed a lot of guys shooting before. And then if you decide to take an ally like the Dwarven Chariot, which I do, that's D6 more strength 4 shots.
Yep. I would say the one thing that I wish this army had, and maybe in the future FAQ we might see it, but it's probably not going to happen because it's not thematic. It would be cool if Percy's reroll ones to hit could extend to Bard.
Yeah. When I was prepping for Dry Falls, I went back and reread all the special rules for this army. And I noticed that Bard could not benefit. It was only Lake Town Militia, if I remember correctly. Because I think we just looked at it. I think it is Lake Town
Militia.
Yeah, that could benefit from those ones to shoot, which kind of sucks because Bard's such a good shooting hero. But then again, I mean, they probably did that on purpose because they didn't want Bard to be that good. I guess they might have done it on purpose. Who knows?
He'd be a mini Iron Nose Ballista at that point.
Yeah.
That'd
be pretty cool though.
So if Bard is on the Windlands, he can get the Black Arrow ability. Once per game, Bard the Bowman can fire his Black Arrow instead of shooting the Windlands normally. If he chooses to do so, declare that he's using the arrow. Bard the Bowman rerolls all failed to hit rolls. Any failed in the way test. Furthermore, you do not use the scattered table while firing the Black Arrow. A successful hit roll against a battlefield target automatically counts as a dead-on result.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you're doing a strength 10 hit, which is the strength of the Windlance.
Yep. Okay, so they did change the Black Arrow. I hadn't read the Black Arrow profile since they changed it. You remember when it did an automatic wound?
Yes.
And
it wounded automatically.
Yeah, so the only reason I haven't read about the Black Arrow anymore is just because I saw that you had to have the Windlance to take it. So I was like, I'm not going to even bother because I'm not going to take Bard and Windlance. But, yeah, Strength 10 hit that automatically is a dead-on hit. And that's pretty good. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I know in last edition, Jay Clare, I'm not sure if he did this or because he's the big Lake Town player, but I remember hearing someone saying they're anticipating him taking Bard on a Windlance because of the ability to one shot a Ring Wraith off a Fell Beast. because flying circuses were a big deal back then. So if you take the Witch King off his Fell Beast right off the bat, then
Yeah, that'd be crazy. Well, I've toyed with the idea of playing Lake Town. Dan got all his models from me, but I actually kind of like the idea of the Wind Lance. It really gives you, if you're playing it pure, and say you don't ally in, not ally, but say you don't bring like Gandalf, so you're going to be missing something. So I feel like the Wind Lance could potentially be a cheaper alternative to say a Gandalf, because if you bring not Percy, Alfred, and buff Bard up with 6 might, him on the Wind Lance, because it's a small siege engine, so they shoot 24 inches, but it's got superior construction, which isn't that the one where you get plus 12 inches of range?
yeah, I think the Windlance is 48. I want to say
No, it says it's a small
small
siege
is
engine.
only 24.
I'm pretty sure. I'm
Yeah, I
not
think
100% confident on that. But I know that I'm thinking of the Avenger Bolter, which is a small siege engine. It only
Yeah.
shoots 24 inches.
that's true.
Well, can you give the Windlance superior construction?
It comes with it automatically.
Oh, then at least you're gonna have 36-inch range.
Yeah. The downside is the fact it doesn't have volley fire, but he gets to use his might points for the hit to wound and to scatter. So
And if you use the black arrow, I mean, if you hit, it automatically wounds, right?
no, it automatically it scores a 6 for the dead
Oh,
on, for
okay.
the dead on, for the scatter. So if you hit with the black arrow, which you've got a pretty good chance with a 3-up, then you're gonna hit whatever you shot at, and then you just deal your strength 10. Of course, being me, I'd probably roll a 3 to hit and then a 2 to wound.
I was thinking about the last. So like when the Desolation of Smaug came out, we were talking about earlier. Bard can shoot the black arrow from his bow, and if you shot the black arrow from his bow, if you hit it as an automatic wound.
Yep. I think Dan said that.
I did say
did.
that, yeah, and that was so good because think about how many almost every scenario in the game kind of gives you
That would be great
VPs
to
for
have, yeah.
it gives you VPs for wounding generals. So you just pop in a black arrow shot into general and potentially
I would
get
do-
points
Yeah.
right off the bat.
So,
I mean, it was a broken rule. I'm not gonna lie, but it was fun.
well, I thought about playing. I had thought about if I played Lake Town and put Bard with the Wind Lance. I thought it'd be pretty thematic. I mean, yeah, he didn't actually shoot the Wind Lance in the movie. It was a broken bow, which is I feel like another reason why he should be able to use the black arrow with
yeah,
bow.
yeah, that's true.
in the movie. Since that's what it's based off of.
They set it up in the second one for him to get on that Windlance,
Yeah.
and then I
Well,
heard
that's what he was going for.
Peter Jackson changed his mind last minute when I
Yeah.
don't know if that's true, but he made a lot of creative decisions last minute. Apparently, the studio got in the way on a lot of stuff too. So
Well, I mean, that's why we had Thranduil on a horse there for a while before it became an elf.
Yeah, because he
Yeah.
was a
Exactly the
horse.
same thing.
Yeah, he was a horse. There's that. They actually went over that in one of the documentaries for The Hobbit. Was Thranduil's mount was supposed to be a horse, and then
I think it was one of the behind the scenes things.
yeah, and then Peter said, "Let's do an elk," and
yeah,
so they
and
changed
he
it.
did it for Unexpected Journey and for Battle of Five Armies.
Which I like it honestly. I think it's a cooler, kind of just
I
more.
think it is too.
it's also like Billy Conley when he played Dane. He originally was dressed up in makeup and stuff, and it looked really good. But then I think they just CGI'd him
They
for the
do.
final. Yeah,
Put the face on.
yeah.
That's, I mean, side note with that, but that's Peter Jackson's biggest fault is he is a CGI lover. I mean, look at what he's done. He's done, was it King Kong?
Yeah, Kong.
Skull Island or something like that. But he did a King Kong movie right after the original Lord of the Rings, and that's where he really started dabbling in CGI and just totally fell in love with it. So, I mean, you can't blame him. He said it himself in the behind the scenes stuff for the original trilogy, and he says, I'm just a giant nerd and I get to play with toys. He looks at all the movie making stuff as his toys. So when CGI came out originally, I mean, look at all the movies that came out in the late 2000s to early 2010s. A lot of it was CGI because the technology just exploded in that 5 to 6 year window. So
Yeah.
It's like a kid coming down to his Christmas tree on Christmas Day, all the toys to play with.
Yeah.
Can't
Well,
really blame him.
no, I mean, let's not talk about this now, but we should actually make a separate video for this because that is a very
down for that.
that was a very interesting point. I could talk about that for some time because I actually prefer the practical effects in movies. But I don't want to get into it because that could add on like an hour to this video.
Another hour, yeah.
We're probably already at least an hour in.
Yeah, we're
We're more than that.
we're more an hour and a half in now.
Closer to 2 now. But so the last thing with the Wind Lance, then we'll go to his last special rule, Bards. It is accurate, so it's only got a 3-inch scatter. So if you're shooting it outside of the black arrow, it is a siege weapon. So you're going to hit, and then you're going to scatter, and you're going to go from there. So it will only scatter 3 inches, which isn't bad. So it doesn't have any spillover effects, so it looks like it's just one direct strength 10 shot, kind of like the Avenger Bolt Thrower. And Bard can move away more than 6 inches away. That is another thing.
Yep, I was just
He
reading
doesn't
that.
have to stay within 6 inches. And I think I mentioned it earlier, but he can use his bite to affect not only the hit and the wound, but also the scatter.
If there was a rule where Bard can be mounted, shoot the Wind Lance and then move away from it, I'd consider taking it just to get that black arrow shot on something.
Yeah.
Like a cave troll or something, and then run off and do his normal thing. I'd consider that.
Well, and that's why I said if I weren't taking Gandalf, I would take the Wind Lance because the points I would be saving, I would then invest those into more troops. And with the difference between Gandalf's cost and the Wind Lance, it's about it's a little more than 100 points. So you're talking 6-point models. Heck, I can't do math right now, but that's what almost.
That's
like
cool.
You fill up Bard's Warband. Yeah, it's at least 15. Closer to 20, but it's not exactly. So I mean,
But you remember the rules? Does he have to deploy 6 inches from a board edge with this? I'm assuming.
I would assume so.
Yeah, I would assume so. Yeah.
It's a siege engine, so I would assume so. Yeah.
And that's kind of another because I thought about taking the Wind Lance, but that's another problem is Bard's supposed to be your main guy who's supposed to be there holding the army together, and then he has to deploy 6 inches from a board edge.
Yeah.
With the Wind Lance.
I'd be doing it just for fun. You know,
oh yeah, no. no. I mean, it would be a lot of fun. I mean, just pummeling guys with strength 10 hits.
Yeah, and 36 inches away.
Potentially have 6 might to work with. I mean, that sounds nasty.
Fun too.
Yeah. So here's Bard's last special rule. This is his big one. This is the big one. I know we normally don't talk about this when we're talking about special rules, but I'm going to point this out. So the rapid fire and the black arrow are both active abilities, but this one is a passive.
Mm-hmm. Means he's always going to have it, whether he's immobilized or not by a spell.
So Bar the Bowman Steadfast. Rule has. Oh, hold on a second. Bar the Bowman rule has a range of 6.
Yeah, you got it. He's got a 6-inch range for Steadfast. It's buffed up to 12 with the army bonus.
Okay, that's correct. Yeah, okay, my bad. I was like, wait, I thought it was 12.
It is with army bonus.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that's right, because we just talked about the army bonus. And then, furthermore, Bane, Son of Bard, Percy Hilda, Lake Town Militia, Captains, Lake Town Militia, within 6 inches of Bard, get +1 to their fight value, as well as being in range of a banner. And so that is normally a 6-inch range, but if the army bonus makes it 12, that's right.
So you talk about a 24-inch diameter with this special. I mean, that's why I compare it to fiefdoms, because that's Imrahil's banner effect, and then some. So the fiefdoms guys, some of them get the +1 to their fight value if they're within range of Imrahil. But Bard, 12 inches and they're getting the +1 fight value. And I mean,
it's kind of needed because again, we talked about the troops. They're only fight 2, so now you got your troops up to fight 3, which is the meta is 4 if you can get fight 4, but you still see a lot of fight 3 with Minas Tirith, Mordor.
Orcs.
What's that?
I was saying orcs.
Orcs, yeah. So Angmar, there's a lot of fight 3 out there still. But then to also be able to get Bane up to fight 4, to get Percy up to fight 4, to get Hilda up to fight 3, to get the militia captain up to fight 4, that kind of helps you out a little bit. Plus, he gets it himself. So he's. Oh no, I'm sorry, he doesn't get it himself, but he gets it from the girls.
Yeah, he
But,
gets from the girls.
there's a lot of synergy there working together.
Yeah. Well, he gives just that banner rule that you guys said. The steadfast rule. I mean, Bard with a 12-inch steadfast is crazy.
He's a legend, so
And he's a legend, so he auto passes. And don't forget the other thing too is if he. Now they got to be able to see him, obviously, but if one of the girls does die, he automatically passes all courage tests.
Yeah, which could be good. I mean, bittersweet. Like he won't flee. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that means you got a good chance your army doesn't flee. And since his steadfast affects Lake Town hero models as well, your lower, fight value heroes, it doesn't really matter that much. Your or not fight value. I'm sorry, your lower courage heroes and your low courage troops. Who cares if they're fight 3? Or not fight 3. Wow, courage 3, courage 4.
It's okay, man. It's been a long video, and a long day probably for you.
About 20 hours.
Yeah. So all in all, Bard is a must take, for sure. I think that like we said, Bard is a good close combat guy. He's also a good shooting guy. So he, in my experience with Bard, he is a reliable hero to take. He rarely dies just because of the I would say the resources that he has to pull from. With the 6 might, with the fight 6. With the free heroic combat, with his
with Bilbo by his side.
Yeah, with Bilbo by his side, and the shooting and stuff that can help out. So Bard is, he's died. Of course he's died, but he doesn't die often.
No, he really doesn't. He's pretty darn good. Let's be honest.
Yeah, for being defense 4, base 5 with armor, he's a solid pick and. He goes in. He normally somebody like Bard, like Aragorn, somebody like that. They're always in the thick of the battle, so they're seeing a lot of combat. Yeah. And Bard also has 3 fate. He has 3 wounds, so he's a durable guy. The defense 5 is kind of sucks, but generally with 6 might, you're winning fights. Another cool thing about Bard is not only does he have 6 might, but he also can get that free heroic combat.
Yep.
So that's like just adding more might to your army, which is crazy. Because just.
I think coupled with Gandalf and Bilbo, if you play your cards right, so you immobilize your opponents up. So let's just say, because in this edition, you're gonna probably verse another big hero on your opponent. You immobilize him. You contain the big hero, and then have Bard be a troop killer for the first 2 turns, and then get Bilbo set up in to that big hero, charge Bard, and you're going to win the fight regardless of what happens.
A great thing to do is exactly what you said. You could use a slingshot effect, having him fight some cheap hero, some cheap warriors, and then use Bilbo's ability to just walk through your own guys with the ring to charge the enemy's big hero and then slingshot Bard into him.
Yep.
So you're gonna outfight him, and you're not gonna you're gonna get that free heroic combat. You're gonna basically use everything in one turn. The ring to have fight value, free heroic combat to slingshot, and then just the ability to have the lower fight value to go ahead and get in there and maybe kill your opponent's big hero.
I know we talked about Azog last video. I think Bard with Bilbo in the right turn where you can get both the men against him and use. Honestly, I would consider using all 6 might to do enough wounds to try and kill him, and I'd even use a might with Bilbo to do 4 wounds to him, try and kill him outright.
I completely agree.
Yeah. No. Well, the cool thing about that is, well, you don't have to worry about spending might for a strike. You're gonna automatically
Yep.
outfight them. So
And
Yep.
and
He's down to fight 3.
and Bilbo does have an elven made weapon, so if you're teaming up with Bard, then, or even Gandalf has an elven made weapon, so if you throw Gandalf in, then you're gonna be winning the fight on a 3+.
well, let's be even more cheeky. Let's say you charge in there with Hilda, getting +1 to wound. Or that's
true.
just Lake Town Militia.
No, Hilda gets it.
Let me look.
That's just
Hilda.
militia.
Yeah, and militia. Okay, militia. So never mind. But
I
still,
think I like a Bard Bilbo combo, and they're not much more expensive together than
Azog.
Azog. So I mean, and then Azog does cause terror, but you've got a high courage with both of them. So if you were to roll Snake Eyes, you could always burn a couple points of will too,
Yep.
and get in there and charge. But that would be a deadly combination and a great way to take out. You would need 5 wounds, so you may not be able to do it in one turn.
You could at least,
theoretically, you would need 5 wounds.
at the very least, you can. Honestly, I'd consider going for his warg first, get him on foot, and then next turn try and charge him and kill him outright.
Yeah.
By knocking him front.
Yeah, because you gotta think, guys. This happens all the time. Is they win priority? Fine, I got 6 might with Bard. If I don't want to use his might, I use Bilbo's might. Call her movement. Let's say that they win the roll off. Okay, fine. They charge Bard with Azog, but they have to, and they want to. Let's say they want to charge some guy into Bilbo to peel him off. That means you're making courage test at -1 per inch.
And
So
courage 2 orcs.
yeah, if you can get in on Bilbo, then I'll just charge some other guy in there and win the fight in heroic combat off it back into combat. I mean, I've done that before. So, and also it doesn't help that mounted Azog's base size is ginormous. So he comes.
Just get all those militia in there and get Hilda. Then you could get the +1 wound with the militia.
Yeah. Which remember, no, I didn't do that actually. I didn't have Hilda when I versed the Iron Hills Chariot that one time. That would have helped out a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, there's so many good combos, and I think honestly my favorite combo, like I said before, is that Bard Bilbo combo where Bard pretty much becomes the best hero in the game. He can go toe to toe with the Belrog with Bilbo if Bilbo's there.
Yeah.
So
Isabella would be fight 5.
Yep.
I think the biggest weakness, it's pretty much the most obvious one, is you have one troop type, and that's the militia. Now, the militia are very versatile, like I said earlier, but the fact that you're not really going to have a lot of movement is, I think, one of those reasons why you may have to look at taking just a no-name captain of either the Lake Town Militia or the Lake Town Guard, or allying something in.
Yeah, ally Danon, ally the Iron Hills Chariot, because you get March with the Chariot.
You could ally in Dane with some
Iron Hills Warriors or Goat Riders.
Goat Riders. You got some knockdown power then, so that could help you out. But I mean, that's the biggest weakness, obviously. And if you ally Dane in, if you're taking Dane, like you said, Dane's got March, so then you wouldn't really need to worry about the captain.
I see Lake Town playing like this. If you don't tank Gandalf, then you could take Dane, and Dane's actually a little bit cheaper than Gandalf.
He is.
Or you can take Thranduil, who's just a tad bit. He's 10 more points than Gandalf. So either way, if you don't take Gandalf, you could still ally in really solid heroes. I mean, Erebor Reclaim too. You could take Dwalin and Thorin.
Yep, and then get some warriors.
Yep.
Yeah, and
or bring some more goats that way too.
Yeah, King Under the Mountain Thorin. He gets that. I think he gets a recurring combat.
Yeah, he gets free hero combat. Yeah.
So, guys, think about that. Getting 2 free heroic combats a turn.
That'd be really cool.
Yeah, that's definitely money. You're definitely, hopefully, doing some damage at that point.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully you're getting 9 points in might if Alfred does you good, and then you're getting 9+ potentially 2 every turn if your heroic combats work. So, I mean, one of them you may have to use a strike with, depending on how your opponent charges you. But that's actually a really good combo, is to maybe think about putting Thorn on a goat, like you said. And then you could give him Orcus too, which is, another.
Yeah, another elemented weapon.
Yep, and it gets the +1 to
yeah.
wound against stuff.
Orcs and stuff.
But I think if you
Orcs,
pair
Uruk-hai, and goblins.
another thing too is if you pair like Dane or Thorin into this Lake Town army. I don't remember exactly the 100% the rules for match play. I don't remember if there's a certain percentage of your army that has to be in it for your leader to be the leader. But you can make Dane your leader, and then Bard can do what he does best and not have to worry about his defense 5 handicapping him.
Yeah, the only thing that's actually a really good idea, and that's really probably a really good reason why to bring a Dane or a Thranduil, is the fact that it doesn't matter. It's whoever's your highest tier, because I've seen it before where people have just allied in, for example, played fiefdoms and allied in Aragorn.
Oh, yeah,
and the whole reason they brought Aragorn is the fact that he's a hero of legend, and I'm talking about Isildur, King Elisar.
Yeah,
I said Isildur. Wow, King Elisar, and they made King Elisar the hero, the leader, which makes sense because he's going to have more might over a long game than Imrahil would. So he's got the might to get the moves in late game turns where Imrahil's probably going to be tapped out, and yeah. There's absolutely no reason why you couldn't do that. I think that's actually a really good idea, Joe. Didn't even think about that.
Maybe there's some ideas in the future, Dan.
What is Thorin a hero of legend when he's part of Erebor Reclaimed?
Yes, I believe so. Well, I believe so.
I would honestly probably, because he's fairly cheap. Is he not? He's cheaper than Dane.
He's cheaper than Dane, and he's way cheaper than
Thranduil.
Yeah,
I believe
he's way cheaper than Gandalf.
I believe he's like $110 on a goat. Oh,
no, he's a little bit more than that.
Oh, actually, I have the book right here. I can just look.
He's 115 base, and then you can give him Orcus and a War Goat for 20 more points.
Yeah, so and you could take. The only reason I would honestly do that is just so I could take some Goat Riders with the Lake Town. And
then I think the Dubakar special rule is pretty good too.
All friendly, Dubakar. I think it's a banner.
They treat Thorin as a banner, so that's where you get Thorin being a banner for himself. So you could have 2 banner effects. You could take Thorin with a couple Goat Riders, like you're saying, and then as long as they stay within, I think it's 3 inches, not 6 inches. Within 6 inches of him, they count him as a banner. That's pretty darn good. And because it says all models with the Erebor Dwarf, which Thorin has, he therefore can banner himself. So you think about he gets to charge. I mean, you talk about 5 dice in a fight if he gets to charge off against infantry models. That's nothing to laugh at.
Plus he's defense 8, 3 wounds. I mean, he has 1 fate, but he's also defense 8.
Yeah, I think that might be a situation where you could make Bard your leader and maybe play a little more conservatively with him and use Thorin and a small contingent of Erebor
Reclaim.
Dwarfs.
Yeah. Your
Iron Hills Goat Riders, and maybe just some Iron Hills Warriors too with shields to give you some fight 4, strength 4 back rank behind your militia.
Yeah.
And use Thorin as literally a ballistic missile to go in and wreck some stuff. While Bard and Bilbo do their little cheeky on the side, more conservatively.
Yeah, because let's see. Yeah, no,
I really like that idea now.
Yeah, but because you gotta think, because I've always thought that Thorin was really cheap for what he could do, especially his stat line. He's a solid stat line. And that recurring, not recurring might, but the free hero combat is also solid. No, I mean, I just like Thorin. He's probably, out of the Hobbit dwarves, he's probably my favorite one. So, I would take him for that reason.
I won't lie, Dwalin's mine.
Well, Dwalin also would be a really good pick, honestly, for what we're talking about.
He's literally a mini Dane. But my only problem, and this is just like my way of thinking, is I look at their points cost. So Dwalin is the same points cost as Thorin.
Yep.
You give him a goat to be. He's still gonna be cheaper than Dane.
Hmm.
In a way, I'd like to pay the extra points just to get Master of Battle and stuff. I'm not sure. I mean, I think Thorn would be a really solid pick, though. I think Dwalin would too. I mean, honestly, granted that it was it.
Well, plus
Dane's like 30 points more, so that's like 3 Iron Hills Warriors you could squeeze in your army. I don't know. I see it being. I see Thorn being a really good pick for this army,
I look at it this
especially
way.
free hero combats.
If
That's
you
why.
take an airborne reclaimed, you're not using just Dane. If you're going that way, you're going to take the Iron Hills side, so you can get the Iron Hills bonus, giving Dane Master Combat because he doesn't
True,
get Master.
true.
I'm sorry, Master Battle. He doesn't get that if you're going from the airborne reclaimed list.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
If you come from the airborne reclaim list, you have to have Thorn because otherwise Dubakar becomes useless. And not only that, but all the other heroes like Dwalin, like Feely, Keely, and everyone else have Swarm Protector, which is bodyguard to Thorn Oakenshield. So you wouldn't just ally in Dwalin because Dwalin to me is probably the best of the Hobbit dwarfs because he's got 3 attacks. He's strength 5, and he gets he can go either to 4 attacks if he fights with 2 axes, or he gets the +1 if he goes 2-handed because he's also burly. So
He's straight up beast.
yeah,
I think so here's my thing on Lake Town. I think pure Lake Town's great. I think you can win games with them. Dan won plenty of games. He beat like my undefeated. At the time it was undefeated. My Riders of Theta in Legendary Legion. But if you're going to a tournament, I think it's a good pick to take a pure army. But after seeing him play at a higher points game, like 800 plus, I think allying in some other hitters is the way to go. I really do.
well, I built an 800-point list while we were talking, and it's pure. So it's Bard with the horse and armor, Percy, Alfred, the girls, Sigrid and Telda, Gandalf on a horse, and Bilbo. And other than that, it's just warrior. So I'm at 53 models. It's 800 points. But when you're sitting here looking at this, it's like, what are my tools? There's only one, and it's Bard. So, I got a lot of models, and I've got a fair amount of bow shots having 4, 8, 12, 15, 16 with Percy, potentially 19 bow shots a turn. But at 800 points, people are getting some big tools in their lists. And what are your tools to counter those tools? So you may win like an objective scenario, but a killing scenario, you'll probably lose just because your one piece being Bard will probably get swamped.
That's true. That's true indeed. That's actually one reason I decided to start taking
scenarios as well.
Yeah, that's one reason I decided to start taking the chariot is just that you need something else. Bard, because Bard can only do so much. He's like any other hero. He can only put you over that edge so much. And really, you can't. Like we said, Percy's good, Sigrid's good, but they're not going to make those game-changing plays every turn.
Like for instance, if you versed Numenor Last Alliance army with a pure Lake Town,
you're probably going to get
Bard might be able to go in there and fight Elendil for a few turns, but then you got to worry about a Isildur or a Gil-galad, and who's going to fight them? You could try and cast magic with Gandalf. Gil-galad can roll natural 6s all day to resist. You do have Bilbo. But
Bilbo doesn't have the ring anymore because
Bilbo wouldn't have the ring.
Because of Isildur.
Okay. Bad example then.
No, it's a perfect example. Perfect example.
I was trying to say in a more contemporary. So okay, let's just say you verse Mordor. You're versing a Witch King on a Fell Beast. You're versing
the bad thing about that is the Witch King totally ignores the ring.
True.
So he could see Bilbo. So the army.
And then the half fight value doesn't affect him either.
Yep.
So you could take out Gothmog, but what the Witch King would be running around hurling stuff.
So that kind of brings the scenario of I think allying in something else. I think we call it the wild card, the X factor.
Yeah.
It's like when I play my hobbits, I tend not to just play pure hobbits. I ally in. I used to ally in a lot of stuff, but now I try and ally in like Aragorn from the Rangers or something. just add that extra hitting power, a little bit of spice behind it.
So in conclusion, their weakness is the fact that they really don't have a lot of tools outside of Bard. So if you're looking to play competitively with them, they're a great army to boost your numbers. But you probably are going to be allying in Brandil's Halls or Iron Hills or Airborne Reclaimed.
And I think like last edition, you could play pure Lake Town all day because everyone can strike, everyone could
Yep.
do that thing.
March.
In this current edition, I'd say because of bigger heroes being prevalent, because of siege weapons, because of monsters, because of just like all the crazy stuff we're seeing on tables now, I'd say ally in. Yeah, I'd say ally in. Any of their ally choices are perfect for him. Honestly, you could get that. You can get that because I've had games like when we played, Bard got massacred. Well, I've seen also 1,000-point armies. They take Thranduil, Dane, and Bard, and then they take a warband of each. So I mean,
At 1,000 points, there's absolutely no reason you couldn't either.
So you could do a lot of stuff.
Are cheap enough from Lake Town that you could definitely buff your numbers in.
My final thoughts. I think that's a really solid army. I think you could play pure and probably win lower points games, probably like 600 to. Yeah. But I think once you start talking about 800 probably, plus.
Yeah, 750 and above. Yeah, maybe even 750 might be able to do it. But
I would say it just really depends on the scenario. It depends on the scenarios. Like you could definitely win objective games. Dan won plenty of Lords of Battles against me in practice games, like killing orcs and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But I think we start seeing like because I said this, like you could win 10 practice games, and then as soon as you go to a tournament, because like everyone has different minds and different ways of how they play. So sometimes there are like things there are honestly like ideas for army builds I never would have thought of. So, but it's just
that's one of the advantages too of going to events is you get to see different ways that people think.
Yeah. Well, let me give my final thoughts on Lake Town. So I love Lake Town. They're fun. They aesthetically look nice, even though they only have one troop choice. They have enough poses and different types of looking models where they're like aesthetically nice. I did go through and have a boatload of practice games and won. Then we went to what's the name? Not Dry Falls, tournament before that. The local tournament. Yeah, the unexpected tourney. And fell short 2 games. They were really close games, but fell short 2 games. Went back to the drawing board and allied in that big X Factor piece, which was the Chariot. And I didn't lose a game at Dry Falls. I did get 2 draws, but 2 of those draws were kind of lower point games. And the way everything was... Yeah, the way things were worded is I had to pretty much had to keep the Chariot in all 4 rounds. So the first few beginning rounds, I didn't have as many models. But then when that 828 round came up and I had the max army, it was a fairly dominant win against Angmar. So if that tells you something.
That's pretty impressive too, because we know Angmar's a pretty good army, right?
Yep. Jason, you got any final thoughts?
Yep. Pretty much that. I think everything that I said has come across a couple times now in regards to weaknesses and strengths. I personally like the army. I like the aesthetic. They are pretty cool. I won't lie. When I got back from the deployment in 2016, I did go out and drop like a good bit of money buying a bunch of Lake Town Militia and Lake Town Warriors, because that's one of the other cool things. We didn't hit on it, but you can actually use the designer notes say to go ahead and use the Lake Town Guard, Warriors as Lake Town Militia, because why wouldn't they be there since they did flee from Esgaroth as it burned? So
yeah, which I would recommend doing because it also keeps things interesting when you're painting.
Yeah, you can get some different schemes in there. And they just look cool on the table. I mean, like I said, I unfortunately never got around to playing them, but I sold them all to Dan, and Dan's Lake Town Army looks amazingly good. He actually won the best painted. He won the best painted army at that long expected tourney event that I ran. So came up a little short, like he said, but he still walked away with a little bit of hardware, so that's always nice. But yeah, I think they're a cool army. I really do. So, anybody else got anything?
No,
That's it for me.
I think it's a wrap. I think we've done pretty good coverage of Lake Town.
Yeah. Well, as always, guys, thank you all for sticking with us. This will be another two-parter, which I think is good, though, because it's good to have these conversations. And we'll be having one more army from The Hobbit in the next review, and that'll just be a solo one because it's kind of a follow-up. It'll be Azog's Hunters. I'll go ahead and spoil it now because it's just kind of an add-on to Azog's Legion. But if anybody would like to request a specific good army to cover after that, please leave a comment in the comment sections below, and we will look into it. Otherwise, I'll just pick another good army, and we'll go from there. So thank you, Dan, for being our host this time and our leader, since you were our resident expert.
Well, I even learned a couple of things after going back and reading the rules.
I rolled my eyes at you a few times, I won't lie. I'm like, damn, you played this, guys.
I know.
Posted you up. I didn't know that.
Actually,
Hey,
totally.
that's
To be 100% honest, and it's actually one of their biggest like perks. I totally forgot about the Lake Town Militia passing courage test, their heroes in combat rule. And
there you go.
I remember that was a big deal when Taba came out, and they got that rule in their profile.
Yeah, I mean, there you go. That's a great one. Like we said I said way back at the beginning, you want to go ahead and let yourself be charged, but that's only when they're broken. Don't forget, though, Joe. It's only when they're broken.
Yeah, that's if you get there. You gotta get broken first.
Yeah, you gotta get broken first, but still not a bad thing because then terror models you don't care about either. So, but yeah, all right, guys. Thanks again for sticking with us, and we will see you on the next adventure.